I don't know if I can keep living through these, but the Eagles somehow pulled out the win versus the Chiefs. Yet not without some ugly play calling as things got a little heated on the sideline. What did Jason Kelce have to say about the performance? Plus, did Jalen Hurts help his case for MVP? That and everything else from Week 11. But first, let's run it. What's up, guys? Okay, so we may have gotten lucky or fortunate or whatever you want to call it thanks to the Chiefs' drops, but honestly, who cares? Because we're 9-1 after getting the first win over Andy Reid. Plus, the Birds helped Jason beat little brother Travis to, put him in his place a little bit, and despite head coach Nick Sirianni saying, no, this is just another game, so not a big deal all week, his actions afterwards suggested otherwise. I mean, it's not like we always see Sirianni yelling, "see ya" to the opposing crowd, which is why I'm not really buying his story about it being just another week. And Lane Johnson wasn't either.
No, I mean, you felt what it was all week and how much, attention was paid to this game. So it was what it was. We knew coming in that, what we were facing. So, pulled through. It wasn't pretty. I felt like we could have done a lot better offensively, and we know that, but collectively, the team played well.
Okay, I guess that depends on how you define played well, but I'm never disappointed with a win. Although personally, my health is going to be in serious jeopardy if we keep having these types of endings.
You've no idea the physical toll.
Look, I'm not going to lie, I thought the Dallas game was brutal on the emotions, but this one might have topped it, as Pave the Lane was more than a little amped to get the dub.
Down with a nice pickup of 9 on first down. I think anytime you can get in behind.
But okay, fortunately, we're not the ones upset like Chiefs wide receiver Marquez Valdez-Scantling, yet that's not to say it was pretty. Yeah, I know, it was far from that. Honestly, we probably should have seen it coming once we got the freezing rain to show up before the game. And with the groundskeepers turning on the sprinklers to soak the field extra in the middle of the rainstorm, it was only natural to assume they were trying to sabotage the Philly pass rush. However, Reddick made sure to quickly prove that wouldn't work after sacking Patrick Mahomes on the second play of the game, eventually leading to a Chiefs punt. Although much like KC's first drive ended, the Eagles did the same when Jalen Hurts was sacked by Trent McDuffie, forcing a 3-and-out, which, by the way, would end up being the first of 5 sacks the O-line allowed in the first half. I know, I was just as shocked as you were seeing that. But there were a lot of things that didn't make sense from the Birds. Like, for example, on the next Chiefs possession, the Philly run defense was nowhere to be found, as KC continued to find massive gains before eventually getting to a 3rd and goal where Mahomes avoided some pressure and connected with an inexplicably wide-open Justin Watson for the 3-yard score after a miscommunication or error or something in coverage from Kevin Byard, leaving Brendan Deeg to ask, when are we allowed to be concerned about the Kevin Byard trade?
Can't stand ya.
Okay, well, I also might have gotten too emotional, but you can't deny he hadn't shown up much to this point, plus he did kill my first touchdown scorer bet. Since that would have hit as the Eagles took their next possession 75 yards on 9 plays, thanks to literally DeAndre Swift and DeVonta Smith, with the ball just about only going to those two before Agent Zero took it in for 6 to cap off the drive. Of course, some Chiefs fans and Cowboys fans and others wanted to hold call on Olamide Zaccheaus for the score, but come on, everything typically evens out because Josh Sweat was clearly held on the play when Kansas City scored. The crazy part is that those would be the only points Philly would score until 4:05 remaining in the 3rd quarter. I'm still having trouble figuring out how we really won. Because after the score tied it up 7-all, Jalen Carter did great to trip up Mahomes and force a punt, and kudos to the breadman who made Chiefs guard Joe Thuney's life a living hell, as the rookie simply overmatched him on nearly every play, with NFL Network's Daniel Jeremiah commenting, JC gets held on almost every play, or heck, just about tackled. Oh yeah, and the Baby Rhino also nearly got a pick before the half ended when he tried to dive under the center's legs, with the rook getting a little inspo from YouTube.
I've seen it on YouTube. Some high school kid tried it. He actually caught the ball, so I was like, that's a good idea, and I knew they were spiking it, so I tried to go for it.
Okay, sure, it didn't work, but I just love how much this dude lives and breathes football. I mean, how insane would it have been if he had come up with the INT? Anyway, getting back to the game, so the stop allowed Hurts and the O to begin moving the ball until Hurts had his pass picked off by L'Jarius Sneed at the KC 30. However, A.J. Brown almost made one of the plays of the night as he ripped the ball out to get the possession back until replay showed he touched the receiver, so KC got to keep possession, which then led to a sideline exchanging of words between 1 and 11. And obviously not the first time we've seen something like this, with A.J. getting heated during the Minnesota game in Week 2. And I can somewhat understand A.J.'s frustration since he was wide open. However, like we we saw most of the night, especially during the first half, Jalen had hardly any time to throw with constant pressure in his face, leaving Peyton Manning to say during the broadcast that the INT is tough, but probably more so on AJ than it is Hurts. I don't know, ultimately probably not a big deal, especially considering the result, but what do you guys think? Either way, a turnover is a turnover, and it looked like KC may capitalize as they were able to do just about whatever they wanted to the Birds' run D before Mahomes tried Kevin Byard, with the 30-year-old saving a touchdown and giving the ball back to the offense. And credit to the All-Pro, because this is the moment we've been waiting for since we got him, and he definitely played really good against the Chiefs, with his stats in pass coverage being 7 catches on 11 targets allowed, 46 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, a 60 passer rating with 2 pass breakups, and 11 yards allowed after the catch, which is why I'd say he was more than solid. Unfortunately, Kansas City DT Chris Jones was without question the best player on the field as he lined up all over the place and registered a pressure on every single O-lineman for the Birds. And then, thanks to a great kick return from Kadarius Toney, the Chiefs set up shop in Philly territory, where the running game couldn't be stopped. Although the refs missed this tackle of Jalen Carter before Mahomes scrambled for 14 yards on a play that should have been dead to rights. Plus, a few plays later, you could make the case that the officials missed a pick route which left Travis Kelce wide open for the score to put the Chiefs up 14-7. Look, I don't mind saying it, the refs miss calls all the time, but even the ESPN broadcast said that should have been called. Yet it only got worse when Hurts was sacked by Trent McDuffie again on a corner blitz. At least the silver lining is that Jalen recovered the football, but was then again sacked on a 3rd and 15 when trying to take off and run by George Karlaftis, giving the ball back to the Chiefs, who converted their 3rd and 15 to set up a 43-yard field goal to go up 17-7. Which at this point, I was not feeling great about our chances. I know I should probably be more confident. But like Jeff Kerr pointed out, Patrick Mahomes was 34-1 when leading by 10 plus at halftime. Yet now he's 34-2. Because let's not forget, Jalen is the king of clutch with the best passer rating when trailing. And also, like Jeff pointed out, Jalen Hurts has won 7 straight games when trailing by 10 plus points. The most by any quarterback in the NFL since the stat was first tracked in 1991. No other QB has more than 4 straight. I mean, that's just ridiculous, quite honestly, but crazier than that is somehow the defense pitched a shutout in the second half, with BG crediting Sean Desai for making adjustments at halftime.
This was, everything that we talked about was happening, but it was just more about us just being in our spots and being gritty. It was going to be one of those where they trying to get on our edges. We knew that. I think that we started doing a good job of just making sure that we stayed with it, pressing. I mean, of course they had some drops in there too where they didn't make some of them plays, but that's part of it. I feel like when it was time to get off the field, we got off. And that's all you want from D.
Okay, like I said earlier, it wasn't pretty, but you got to give Desai props for his adjustments at halftime, because whatever he changed worked. Although Brian Johnson didn't get that message, with a terrible start on the opening possession, yet thankfully the D was able to get off the field. And sure, was it a bit lucky that Mahomes airmailed this throw? Sure, but sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. However, that was neither on the offense's second possession of the second half when the Eagles got it to 3rd and 1, and naturally at this point you and I are both thinking that's a guaranteed first down, right? Except no, Brian Johnson decided to go with a draw from the gun on a 3rd and 1 which got eaten alive and never had a chance. And that's when DeVonta Smith lost it apparently, with Twitterers saying the Slim Reaper was giving Brian Johnson an earful after that 3rd and 1 call on the sidelines.
We don't do that. You're scaring the out of me, man. Stop it. This is how you conduct yourself.
All right, I don't blame him. I just wish I could know what was being said, because I think we all realize it takes a lot to get Smitty yelling at someone, or at least it doesn't happen near as often as AJ. Who knows? Maybe he was like Shane Half, who said, just go ahead and fire Brian Johnson now. A shotgun run on 3rd and 1 when you have a play that converts 95% of the time is unforgivable. Yeah, it is unforgivable, and for the life of me, I can't understand what Brian Johnson was thinking. But it's no wonder that the top trending topic at that moment was fire Brian Johnson. However, let's be honest, we can all get a little too emotional at times, so that's probably getting carried away. Yet I don't want to hear it about BJ being the top 10 in nearly every major statistical category for the offense, because situationally, it feels like it's eventually going to cost us. Although, I don't know, here I go again. Curious to know what you guys think about BJ after having time to decompress and reflect. Luckily, the defense made a stop on the next possession where BJ finally got a little more creative with a jet sweep to DeAndre Swift for 35 yards, and then Jalen capped it off with a 10-yard QB draw to make it 14-7. I mean, how could you ever hate that play? And then thankfully, the defense continued to show up in a big way, despite looking like they were going to allow the Chiefs to regain a 10-point lead, as Mahomes found Kelce deep inside Eagles territory, but cornerback Bradley Roby punched the ball out and Nicholas Morrow jumped on it, sending us all into a frenzy. Although that was short-lived with BJ's play calling.
I hate so much about the things that you choose to be.
Okay, just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, BJ decides to go screen pass to Smitty and then screen pass to Julio Jones. No offense to Julio, but why the heck are we throwing a screen pass to our 50-year-old slow receiver? Oh yeah, and then a QB draw on 3rd and 10, by the way. Fortunately, after moving the ball a little, Kansas City was unable to pick up the first as the receiving core with the most drops in the NFL lived up to its name, dropping another pass in what would have been a guaranteed first down, which set up the drive of the game when Jalen hit Swift on a 20-yard screen pass followed by a connection to Smitty on 3rd down, before getting the play call from Brian Johnson and saying screw that as QB1 checked into a pass it deep to Smitty, resulting in a 41-yard completion on a dot from Jalen, where the Birds punched it in on the very next play courtesy of the brotherly shove. And okay, obviously I'm over-exaggerating probably a bit about Jalen's response to BJ, but he did change the play.
DeVonta and AJ had a huge play that Jalen actually checked to. It was a heck of a check. Jalen just sees some great things out there, and he did a phenomenal job. Got to a little bit of a, I won't get too much into it, but he checked to that, and it ended up being the right call at the right moment. And that's what good quarterbacks do. Quarterbacks, they make 3 or 4 plays that change the game with their mind, right? They got to do a great job throwing the ball, running the show. But they make 3 to 4 checks a game with their mind that can make big differences, and Jalen did that tonight.
All right, I agree. Sure, Jalen didn't have his best game or really anything close to it, but he made plays when it mattered most, which is why the Eagles are now 4-0 against teams with a winning record, after Mahomes and co. couldn't get anything going on their ensuing possession, although the Birds were determined to lean on the defense again when some shoddy conservative play calling let the Chiefs get the ball back with 2:49 remaining, as the Chiefs did manage to get the ball to midfield after a stupid roughing the passer penalty on Fletcher Cox. Yet somehow, miraculously, despite Chiefs receiver MVS being wide open and having the ball hit him in the hands, he dropped the potential game-winning touchdown. And sure, I don't blame him and was understandably upset afterward. Look, I don't mind saying we got lucky from that standpoint, and yeah, everyone wants to point to the drops saying shoulda, woulda, coulda, plus the fact that 21% of Mahomes' incompletions this season have come on drops is always a great excuse. I know that stat's insane when you think about it, but we know a thing or two about potential game-winning drops, so you can save it. Back to the game, though, the next play was even better and basically the sealer when Josh Sweat beat his man to force Mahomes to commit an intentional grounding, and one final heave to convert a 4th and 25 ended up resulting in another drop and a Birds win. This was just one of those games that unfortunately we've seen multiple times this season that wasn't pretty, although the best part was that we got Jason his win over Travis, so at least he can hold that over him at Thanksgiving dinner. Plus, remember that whole gauntlet of a schedule we were supposed to be worried about? Well, we're 4-0 since Week 7, with wins over the Dolphins, Cowboys, and Chiefs, with those teams having a combined record of 21-6. And despite the fact that we haven't seen it, Kelce still has faith in the team putting it all together, saying, I think it's only going to be that much better when we start clicking and start really putting together full games. It's going to happen. We have the players to do it and the pieces. Okay, I agree with the whole sentiment of having the players, but I'm not 100% sure with the play calling. I realize that might be too much of a nitpicking deal with being 9-1 and everything, but it's just hard to comprehend some of the calls at times. However, we've got a commanding lead in the NFC East and still a lead in the NFC Conference as a whole. Yet as we know, there's several tough opponents coming up. Speaking of which, if you become a member of the channel between now and the end of the month, you'll automatically be entered into a drawing for 2 Eagles tickets to any remaining Eagles game on the schedule, which will be drawn during the 49ers game, so feel free to sign up via the link in the description. But alright, it's like they say, it's not about how you start, but about how you finish, and you gotta give this team some credit for finishing, yet, like I've shared, there are plenty of holes to fix. Curious what you guys think. What are the biggest areas of weakness, and what are the positives we can take away from this win? I'm interested to see how the Birds address this going forward, but happy Victory Tuesday. Enjoy it. This has been the Philly Special.